We always talk about archaeological or other discoveries that are often described as amazing. But the things you are going to discover today will leave you speechless, and some will even give you goosebumps. Are you ready to see them? Let's get started. You remember Otzi, the Iceman who was discovered in the Alps in 1991 and whose story fascinated you. But you will be even more stunned when you learn that a team of cavers made a much more amazing discovery. It happened in 1993 in Altamura, a town in southern Italy, more precisely at the bottom of a chasm. The speleologists who were there discovered the skeleton of a man who had fallen into this chasm and had remained there until his death. The bones were fossilized and covered with calcite. But that's not the surprising part. In fact, the skeleton was at least, hold on to your hat, 130,000 years old! Yes, 130,000 years. Much older than Otzi, isn't it? Well, the scientists had in front of them the skeleton of a Neanderthal, a human who lived for 350,000 years before disappearing 40,000 years ago. According to them, the skeleton in question was one of the best preserved and most complete Neanderthal skeletons they had ever discovered. It is true that these researchers had difficulty in studying it closely, given that the bones were in a difficult place to access. But at least, the observations they were able to make, especially at the level of his teeth, as well as the DNA they were able to extract, allowed them to learn a little more about this man and to have some information, such as his age, his oral health, and his physique. Interesting, isn't it? We are now going to tell you about a sensational discovery that dates back several years. A discovery that I'm sure will not leave your thoughts for a few days. A team of archaeologists in New Zealand was exploring a cave system on Mount Owen when they came across a bird's foot. As you might guess, it wasn't the leg of any small bird, but the leg of a giant moa, a volatile species of the large dinosaur family that lived in New Zealand and disappeared from our planet several hundred years ago. And if that's not enough to surprise you, you should know that the age of this paw has been estimated at 3,300 years. But not only that, the paw was preserved in perfect condition and still contained all its muscles. Never seen before. The ancient Egyptians used to mummify their dead. That everyone knows, but what you may not know is that this practice was also common in the Philippines. However, this mummification did not take place in the same way as in Egypt. That is to say, not with bandages. And this is the most interesting thing. You want to know how the ancient Filipinos mummified their dead? It will confuse you, I guess, but knowing the funeral traditions of this ancient people is really worth it. Well, these people mummified their dead with fire! In fact, scientists have come across remains of humans mummified by fire in caves in the city of Cagayan. And this is what the result once looked like. It should be noted that this method of mummification by fire, which may have begun even before the death of the deceased, required a very long process of dehydration and smoking that could last from several weeks to several months. This allowed the bodies to be well preserved for a long time. This practice ended with the arrival of the Spanish in the Philippines in the 1500s, but the Cagayan mummies are still there. Let's take a little trip to the Atacama Desert in Chile. What I'm about to show you now will not leave you indifferent, and will certainly make you think a lot. Are you ready for the surprise? What a surprise! It looks like an alien mummy, doesn't it? Indeed, the appearance of this small mummy of only a few centimeters and especially the shape of its head leads us to believe that it is indeed some small alien that was found in the Atacama Desert. Ata, named after the place where it was found, has been the subject of a series of scientific studies for several years. Obviously, this led to the conclusion that it was a human female fetus with genetic anomalies, especially in its bones. Ada was, according to some scientists, suffering from accelerated bone age syndrome and ended up in the middle of the desert, probably due to a miscarriage. However, not all scientists agreed on these results, which were questioned by many of them. This is what will keep the doubt on the true nature of this mummy for a long time. It is often by its cover that we decide whether or not to buy or read a book. But the book you are about to discover is not a book like the others, and its cover is unlike any other. In fact, it's sure to scare you away when you find out why. It has nothing to do with the title of the book or any of the illustrations, but rather with the material the cover is made of. Do you really want to know? Beware, this may shock you. In fact, the cover of this book is made of human skin. This leaves you speechless, and you tell yourself that it is impossible, right? But you should know that this book does exist. It was discovered at Harvard University, and experts who have seen it up close have confirmed this information. The question now is, how was this book bound in human skin? Who is the person who is willing to donate his skin for a book? Well, it is believed that this book was bound with the skin of a mental patient, and it is her doctor who did this. It seems, however, that this book is not the only one to be covered with human skin. There are other examples as well, including a book in the UK that was covered with the skin of a young man who had been sentenced to death and hanged. Tell me, if you had the opportunity one day, would you read this book? Would you even touch it? There has always been talk of aliens and their visits to our planet in their flying saucers. But it seems that the aliens would not have landed on our planet only. What? Where could they have gone? You will discover the answer in a few moments. But first, take a good look at this picture. What do you see there? This thing with a humanoid shape looks like an alien, doesn't it? However, it is difficult to say when and by whom this image was taken. Some say that this shape was detected on the moon, probably during the Apollo 11 mission. Others suggest that the picture was taken by NASA, while the less skeptical suggest that it is an image from a short film. So, what's the deal? Is it reality or fiction in your opinion? How many doubtful objects are discovered in nature by pure chance and immediately linked to some extraterrestrial? It must be said that conspiracy theorists are fond of these subjects, and there is no shortage of stories about these dubious and fascinating discoveries. By the way, do you know the latest one? A man discovered a very mysterious object in Arkansas and did not hesitate to publish pictures of it on Facebook page, causing a flood of speculations on social networks, especially by conspiracy theorists. One of them, a man named Waring, even went so far as to define the nature of this oval object that looked like a giant scaly egg. Do you want to know what Waring said? Whether you believe it or not, you will be amazed, I'm sure. So here's the man's theory. This giant object that is 2 feet long is an egg of an alien reptile. Now there's an idea. However, you should know that the experts did not agree with Waring. After observing the object, they concluded that it could be a simple geological formation. Well, we can't be sure of anything, and the mystery surrounding the true nature of this object will probably last a long time. When walking on the beach, one can come across more or less surprising objects washed up on the sand. It can be a glass bottle, a sea creature, or something else. But in New South Wales, Australia, a man found something much stranger. A little more than 4 years ago, this man was walking on a beach in Air Force Beach as usual when he came across this object. Greatly surprised by his find, he did not hesitate to take some pictures of it. By the way, do you have any idea what this man found? Look, the strange object had a light bulb and electrical wiring. The pictures, which were published in a local newspaper, gave rise to many hypotheses. Some claimed it was some kind of fish concentrating device used for catching certain fish such as tuna, while others thought it could be sailing equipment or a part of a yacht. The object has also been mistaken for a navigational marker. However, another hypothesis, much stranger, suggests that it was a UFO object. This is unheard of. Archaeologists specializing in ancient Egypt often make interesting discoveries, some of which sometimes go beyond comprehension. Like the one I will show you in a few seconds. As you know, animals were very important to this people, so much so that they mummified these animals, like cats for example. Now, a few years ago, in the necropolis of Saqqara in Giza, archaeologists discovered 5 mummies of animals, bigger than cats. You are probably wondering what they were. They were felines, of course, and you know what? 2 of these 5 animals were identified as cubs. Of course, other mummified animals have also been found, including crocodiles, snakes, and birds. But this is the first time a complete lion or cub mummy has been discovered in Egypt. Sometimes it is inside the tombs that archaeologists find treasures and precious objects. Strangely enough, they can discover things that look exactly like objects from our era that we use every day, as happened in the tomb of a woman from the Xiongnu era. This woman was buried in Tuva, a mountainous region in Russia, over 2,100 years ago. Well, here you are, thinking about it. What is this mysterious thing that one of the archaeologists found in this tomb, and that reminds us of an object that almost everyone can't help using nowadays? If you still don't have the answer, here it is. In this tomb, this archaeologist found an accessory in the shape of a smartphone. Look for yourself at the pictures of this little marvel. As you may have guessed, it was buried with this lady who was called Natasha. Decorated with precious stones, this chic accessory of 18 centimeters by 9 centimeters has been identified as a belt buckle. Who knows, it might have been made by Natasha herself. And finally, let's head to Guinea, West Africa, because that's where you'll find one of the most confusing and fascinating sculptures ever discovered in Africa and the world. You will see it in this video, but first, take a good look at this mountain. Don't you see anything? How about another picture of this mountain? This time from a distance. Close your eyes, count to 3, and now open them. Wow, incredible! You can now see very clearly the face of a woman carved into the mountain, can't you? The sculpture has been named the Lady of Mali, since the mountain where it was carved is on the border with Mali. According to Angelo Pittoni, an Italian geologist, it was made by hand 12,000 years ago. Who is this artist of genius who could realize such a thing at a height of 1,500 meters? Nobody knows, and we will probably never know. Now, tell us in the comments which of these amazing discoveries has impressed or frightened you the most. Have you ever heard of anything else as amazing as the ones you just discovered today? Don't forget to subscribe and click here to watch another of our videos.